So what is going on, guys? I am BlackOpsAmazing. Welcome back to another zombies video, back with another Q&A where we take your questions from the comment section below to do with the zombie storyline, Easter eggs, and I answer them. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, drop a like rated if you want to. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest content on the channel. But without further ado, let's get into this. Here we go. So the first question of the day is from Aimbot, and they say, who do you think is behind the blue door that knocks in Kino Der Toten? So in the remastered version of Kino, not in the old version, this isn't in there, but if you go outside and knife this blue door, you will hear somebody knock back. Now this is an Easter egg where you have to listen to the sequence, the amount of knocks that you are given, and then you have to reply. And once you've done it, you'll hear a Samantha scream or laugh. And then the second part to this Easter egg, which is pretty simple, is finding the Samantha dolls, and then, as I'm sure you will know, once you've done that, because this Easter egg is basically in most of our Zombies Chronicles maps, it will play a song. So you can see this Easter egg links to Samantha, but as you say in your question, who is knocking behind the door? Is it her? Remember, in Kino Der Toten, Samantha was in control of the zombies. She was playing with our characters during this time, messing with them, and since she was kind of toying with our characters, could this have been her behind the door? Because this seems to be a Samantha related Easter egg, maybe it's her messing with us. Of course, we know at this time she was in the MPD, so if it wasn't her, then who is it? A zombie maybe? Possibly it's no one and we're just hearing things. I mean, this isn't the first time we heard knocking in Kino. If you actually go to another area of the map, and this is a really old Easter egg, there is someone locked inside of some crates, knocking, trying to get out, I suppose. You could ask the same question. Who is that? Is it a zombie or someone else? Because we know Kino Der Toten was a research facility of Group 935, so their main priority here was to create the zombies. They experimented on people. So, who is it? We don't know. Is it Samantha messing with us? Is it a zombie? Is it a person? Is it no one? I doubt we'll ever find out. Monkeyman2819 says, hey BOA, I have a question. Does grief in Mob of the Dead have anything to do with the story? You know how some players play as the police and the others as inmates. So as we know, grief is a side game mode for Black Ops 2 Zombies. We mainly see it played on maps like Town and Farm, between the CIA and CDC. It was also playable on Buried. However, in Mob of the Dead, the game mode is actually called Cell Block, and it's actually between the Alcatraz guards and the Alcatraz prisoners. Now, it doesn't seem to have any connection to the main storyline, but if we listen to the warden, or this seems like Brutus, we know it's the same person, when you first start up, he says, riot in progress, this prison is on lockdown. Only one team can survive.
Riot in progress, this prison is in lockdown. Only one team can survive.
So we find out that, whereas on grief mode, on maps like Town or Buried, we are playing as the CIA, where they are battling against each other for superiority. We know they are both groups of the government, and so to just prove who's more worthy, they are each fighting for survival. Whereas on Cell Block, the story is a riot has happened in the prison. As we can see, the prisoners have escaped. We get to play as 4 of them. I don't know where the others would be. I'm pretty sure there should be more than 4 prisoners. But as the warden tells us, there is a riot, the prisoners have escaped, everything is on lockdown, and only one team can survive. It is us against the prison guards. They are trying to stop us from surviving, and we, being the prisoners, are trying to stop them from surviving. Like I said, there doesn't seem to be any main storyline connection. We know quite a few things have changed from the actual map, some of the perks, the layouts, the pack-a-punch. Because grief or cell block is a lot smaller, everything is closer together, some areas are locked off, and when one team actually dies in game, being the guards or the prisoners, they are brought back to life, and the warden says,
we're not done yet.
We're not done yet. He gives you another chance. It's kind of like he's playing games. So it is quite interesting, and I almost feel like this is the forgotten game mode. No one really talks about Cell Block. When they're talking about grief, usually it's about Town or Farm with the CIA and CDC. So yeah, there we go. And apparently, a little Easter egg for you guys. I haven't seen this myself, but if you actually played the Japanese version of Black Ops 2, the announcer, instead of being the warden, is Edward Richtofen. I find that really strange because, one, why is the Japanese version different? And also, how is Richtofen the announcer in Mob of the Dead, which is supposed to take place in Purgatory. It's kind of weird, and also while I've just looked that up, it does seem like this takes place after Mob of the Dead, which would make sense because the warden seems to already be Brutus. And we can tell this because if you go into the starting area, the checklist that shows all of the parts to building the plane are already ticked off, which should mean that the Mob of the Dead crew have done this. So it seems like this takes place after Mob. And also a quick little note, if you are trying to play this for yourself, don't. Literally, I tried to get some new gameplay and there was one other person on. You need more than 2 people to play this game mode, so it's literally impossible to get new gameplay. The next question of the day from Bobby Rowlett, which is quite different and interesting, says, "Hey BOA, this is probably a stupid question," which it isn't, but how did zombie players first learn the steps to elaborate Easter eggs? I played Transit for a long time without even knowing that Easter egg was a thing. So nowadays it's pretty simple to start off. We usually get audio quotes or there's obvious things you pick up, clues, little hints on what to do. Let's use Revelations for example. One of the first Easter egg steps on that is to shoot the gravestones. I mean, they're in the starting room, they stand out. It would make sense to shoot them in the order that our characters have died, and then from there on you usually get clues on what to do next. But going all the way back to some of the first Easter eggs we ever had, well, the first proper one was Doris, although very simple, but I would say I think it was Ascension was the real first Easter egg, the first fully fledged one. I couldn't tell you at that time if people were like, okay, we've got to find the Easter egg on this map. Even though I started playing zombies in Black Ops 1, 5 and Kino Der Toten, I would have been about 12 or 11 years old then. So I was just playing for the fun of it. I had no idea what was going on. I mean, I was 18. I was definitely 18. But back in the day, it was harder. Like I said, I was at an age there where I was stupid, so I really couldn't tell you. But now, since everything's quite laid out in front of us, not even Easter eggs wise, but storyline as well, if you know what you're doing or have a rough idea of what you should be looking for, then it's quite easy to start off, but I'm not the best person to ask for that. And also, as you say in your question, you played Transit for a long time without knowing there was an Easter egg. Well, on a map like that, it should be pretty simple to find out that there is, because as soon as you turn on the power, you get quotes from Maxis that will give you a subtle hint that there's an Easter egg and what you should do. So if you just listen and pay attention, depending on the map, it's easy and sometimes can be quite hard. JJ Sorum says, "Hey BOA, in the cycle, does Revelations happen every time they go through it? If so, why does Monty say he didn't know the Shadow Man was in the summoning key, even though he escapes every time they go through the cycle?" So basically what you're asking is, if we've gone through this cycle hundreds, thousands of times before, which we have, then surely Monty would know that the Shadow Man is inside of the summoning key, which he escapes from in Revelations and causes havoc upon Monty's perfect universe. Surely Dr. Monty would know about that, so why doesn't he do anything about it? Why does the cycle keep continuing and the same thing keeps happening? Well, yes, the cycle has happened many times before. We don't know the specific number, but the first question would be, did Monty know about the cycle? Because we've seen our characters have gone through it many times and they don't seem to remember it. It seems like once the cycle is reset, their minds are also reset. They don't know that they've relived these events over and over again. So if these characters don't know, then does Dr. Monty know? Personally, if you had to ask me, which you are, I don't know why I said that, Dr. Monty does know. We believe he is the one who is resetting the cycle. That is the reason why we are going to kill him in DLC 4. If Monty is the character keeping the loop going, then he has to know about it. And so then getting back to your question, why does Dr. Monty say he doesn't know about the Shadow Man? Well, I believe there's 2 answers. Perhaps he's telling the truth and he truly didn't know. Yes, he is keeping this cycle going, but perhaps he doesn't remember specific events. Although with something like this, you would think he does. If he's this all-being, all-seeing, all-powerful god, surely he would have known about the Shadow Man inside of the summoning key, so I have to say that he was probably lying. He knew about the Shadow Man in there all along, but in order for the cycle to continue, to keep looping over and over again, that means the same events have to keep happening. One of those events is the Shadow Man destroying Monty's perfect universe, and so Monty says that he knew nothing about it when he did. Because obviously if Monty came out that he knew, of course the premise characters are going to start to question him. Maybe they would try to get rid of him or something, and that could lead to the cycle not continuing, and so since that's not what Monty wants, it seems like he kept his mouth shut and pretended he knew nothing about the Shadow Man so that the same events could happen as they're supposed to and the cycle would continue. Anyway guys, there we go, that is it, that is all I have for you for today's video. As always, hopefully you have enjoyed. If you have, you know what to do, drop a like, rate it if you want to. If not, it's totally fine. Thank you guys for watching anyway. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest videos on the channel, but until next time, leave your questions down below and goodbye.